Hi boys and girls, it's Mrs. Viviano with today's reading lesson. This week we're going to be thinking about the sequence of events. So I'm going to read a story called Oscar and the Frog, a book about growing. And it's written and illustrated by Jeff Waring. So what did Jeff Waring do? That's right. He wrote the words and he drew the pictures. So this is a book about growing. So we're going to see a lot of different things that's going to grow. Now we know when we grow, we start out as babies and then we get bigger and then we get bigger and bigger and then we're grown-ups. So we're going to watch to see how some things grow. Oscar and the Frog, a book about growing. One spring day by the pond, Oscar saw some creatures he hadn't seen before. Did you see them? Frog hopped up. "They're tadpoles," Frog said. "I was a tadpole before I grew up." Oscar stared at Frog. He didn't look like a tadpole at all. "Don't be silly, Frog," Oscar said, laughing. Who's Oscar? Yes, he's the cat. So Oscar the cat is talking to Frog, and Frog said that he used to look like this. Can you believe that? Huh. "It's true," Frog said, and he told Oscar how frogs grow. "At first, I looked like a dot in an egg. The egg was as soft as jelly. I grew in the egg and then hatched out a wriggly tadpole. I could breathe underwater through gills like a fish. I was hungry for pondweed. It helped me grow. Later, my gills disappeared and I grew lungs to breathe air. I grew back legs, then front legs, and my tail started to shrink. After 3 months, I was a little frog. I kicked my new legs and jumped out of the water to live on the bank." "What else hatches out of eggs?" Oscar asked. They looked in the pond. Frog showed Oscar some eggs that had been laid under water. Many snails lay their eggs in pouches of jelly on stones or plants. Dragonflies often lay their eggs on a plant stem just below the water. Fish lay lots of eggs. The perch winds hers in a long thread around plants, twigs, or stones. They looked on the bank, and Frog showed Oscar some eggs that had been laid where it was dry. Many kinds of butterflies lay their eggs on the undersides of leaves. When the caterpillars hatch out of the egg, they eat the leaves. Many birds lay their eggs in nests high off the ground. Here, the chicks will be safe from animals who might want to eat them when they hatch. Ducks often nest on the ground close to water, so their ducklings will be able to swim quickly away from danger. "Do plants hatch out of eggs?" Oscar asked. What do you guys think? No, said Frog. Most plants sprout from seeds. Each plant makes its own kind of seed. The seed of apple trees are stored inside their fruit. Strawberry plants have small seeds on the outside of their fruit. Poppy plants have tiny seeds that are light enough to be carried by the wind. Coconuts are the seeds of coconut palm trees, and they are huge and they can float. Most seeds ripen above the ground, but the seeds of the peanut plant grow in the earth. "Did I hatch out of an egg, or did I sprout from a seed?" Oscar asked. "Neither," said Frog. "You were born. You looked a lot like you do now, only much smaller, with fur and paws, ears and a tail. You were hungry for milk from your mother. She's a little kitten. Why was I hungry for milk? Oscar asked. It helped you grow, said Frog. Milk for you, pondweed for me, leaves for these caterpillars, and bugs for those baby birds. We all need different food to grow. Oscar stretched. I'm so big now, he told Frog. But you're not as big as you will be, said Frog. Are you? Asked Oscar. Yes, Frog answered. I've stopped growing now. I'm as big as I'm going to get. So he has stopped growing. But will Oscar get bigger? Yes, he'll continue to grow from a kitten to a cat. How about you? Are you guys done growing? No, you'll continue to get bigger too. How long does it take to grow up? Oscar asked. It depends, said Frog. This flower will be full grown in a few days. But this young tree won't be tall until you are a very old cat. The baby birds will be as big as their parents next spring, Frog went on. But the tadpoles will take 3 springs or more to get as big as I am. Each living thing takes its own time. Just then, Oscar saw his mother was coming. What about me? He asked Frog. How long will I stay a kitten? You will be a full-grown cat by winter, Frog said, as big as your mother is now. Oscar looked at his mother. She was much bigger than he was. Don't be silly, Frog, she said, laughing. It's true, Frog said. Wait and see. Now, this last page in the book shows us about all the information that we read about. So by the pond, Oscar found out about these things, right? He found out how things begin as an egg or a seed and some are born. He learned about the food that they eat and how it's different from pondweed, leaves, and bugs. And then he also learned about different things growing bigger at different speeds. Like the flower would take a few days, the birds a few months, Frog a few years, and then the tree would take many, many years to grow. Oscar thinks growing is great. Do you think so too? I bet. Now, if we think about the frog and how it grows, back on like the second page of this story, what was first? The eggs, right. And then he hatches, and then the little tadpole grows. He grows some back legs, he grows some front legs, his tail gets shorter, and then he's a frog. So this is the sequence of events that it takes for a frog to grow up. So we're going to talk about the sequence of events this week, kind of like this. We're going to look at plants in our next lesson. I hope you enjoyed Oscar and the Frog, a book about growing.